It's Flames Nation Radio, Season 2. It's October. There's all kinds of stuff going on. And Ryan and Shane are with you to help you make sense of all of it. How are you doing, Shane?
I had better days. It's been a rough week, but we're still kicking. Watching Flames hockey. It'd be nice to watch Flames hockey on an actual broadcast instead of streaming from my phone. But other than that,
hey, once we get past Friday, all 82 games are available in beautiful HD from the lovely people at Sportsnet. It's been an interesting couple days. Before we dive into everything, as usual, Flames Nation Radio is brought to you by the lovely folks at DoorDash and by Eau Claire Distillery's Rupert's Whiskey, the official whiskey of the Calgary Flames. It's been, we're recording this on Wednesday. Immediately following the Flames 5-0 loss to the Winnipeg Jets. First of all, our only thoughts on the 5-0 loss to the Winnipeg Jets was sometimes you go to work, folks, and you're just not feeling it. And the Calgary Flames looked like they just weren't feeling it. They had a decent enough start, and then it got away from them. They gave 5 goals, 3 of them on Jets power plays, and the fourth one comes directly after a fairly disorganized and subpar Flames power play. And Dominic Tonnato got a breakaway, and he beat Dustin Wolf. So I mean,
they made it very easy for you to do your post game review and have it ready for the second.
I didn't need to put in any goal gifts. Robert and Terenjot didn't need to get me anything real, because there's nothing. Vladar was good. I
had my girlfriend multiple times was like, "Are you okay? Are you gonna fall asleep?" I'm like, I might.
It was it's a Wednesday preseason game in Winnipeg.
You're down 5-0 in the third period in Winnipeg. You're not gonna try and get hurt. Like, not necessarily anyways, but I mean, it did get a little gritty in the third, but Zad Dog might get a call from someone, might have to pay.
Yeah, it's when you're in the dog days of preseason, folks, I'll just remind you this. It was a crappy random weeknight preseason game against Winnipeg that got Blake Coleman suspended last year. So we're just saying, if you're going to go to Winnipeg and not play particularly well, just try not to get hurt or suspended. So that's all the commentary we have on a game that didn't really warrant a lot of commentary. It's been a big day and a big week for us at the Nation family. We're excited to welcome the Barn Burner crew to the Nation family.
Love it.
Dean Molberg, aka Boomer, Ryan Pinder, and Rhett Warner are joining our family. They're going to be, our buddy Princey recruited them for the content side. So if you're a Flames fan and you want to get more good content in your ear holes, your eye holes, or basically, if you want to experience it using whatever senses you feel like experiencing your sports content through, we have daily Monday to Friday video content from those guys. Start live at 10:30. It's an hour and a half from 10:30 to noon on our YouTube channel, the Nation Network YouTube channel, which hosts all of our video content. In addition, if you can't watch it on YouTube, it's on Facebook and the Flames Nation Twitter account. So whichever way is your way of experiencing it live, cool. If you happen to be at a position at your job, life, whatever, that you can't watch it live, it'll be archived as a podcast and on our YouTube channel right afterwards. So if you're a fan of any of the other Nation teams, again, no judgment. Canucks Conversation on the Canucks Army channel is daily. I believe it's Leafs Morning something.
Yeah, with Nick Alberga. Yeah,
so that
got him too. Yeah,
every day Monday to Friday Leafs content. Oilers Nation every day with Tyler Yamchuk and a rotating cast of characters. So basically, if you're a fan of one of the Nation teams, especially the Flames, it's an exciting time. So quick rundown: if you're in addition to the Barn Burner, you have Flames Nation Radio with me and Shane. You have Shot Down in Flames with a whole rotating cast of characters. A motley crew of characters. Shane made an appearance to class the place up this week. He did what he could.
I just wanted to rant.
He did what he could. And of course, Flames Nation Live. So we have a ton of cool stuff. And I believe it was announced I'll be appearing on the radio more often than usual. So if you're hoping to escape the Nation family in your media diet, I'm sorry, I don't think that's possible this year. I apologize, but if you like it, hooray!
Flooding the market, folks, with tons of quality content. Boomer and Pinder without censorship. Well, somewhat censored, but without censorship.
Princey will do what he can to keep them on the rails, but he's only one man.
and it's not at 6 a.m. It's at 10:30. So
being able, I'm sure everybody loves being able to sleep in, but yeah, so it's an exciting time. So we couldn't do any of this without the support of you lovely fans. If you guys weren't here listening, reading, commenting, ranting, raving, tweeting, commenting, whatever, then there'd be no point in us doing this. So we're really appreciative of you giving us your time, your energy, your passion, and also, without saying this will be very self-serving, but we have really, really good support from our parents at Playmaker Capital. You hear that this will be a little bit inside baseball, kids, but you hear horror stories about big companies buying media companies and then things go off the rails because they don't get why they were working. And I'll say this, Playmaker is not one of those companies.
No, they rock, dude.
Yeah, and again, this is very self-serving because Shane and I,
they pay us.
Yeah, this is to steal a John Oliver phrase. They're our business daddy, but they're nice parents. We enjoy our parents. So, but especially, as much as self-serving is to thank our corporate overlords. It's all about the fans. So we hope you guys are as excited for this coming season as we are. It's gonna be a long season, so at sometimes we'll be recording these things late and Shane and I will look various degrees of haggard. I apologize in advance. All I can say is if we look like shit, there's always the podcast. You don't have to look at us if you don't need to.
If you don't want to look at us, just do the Spotify and not the YouTube. We're good to go.
Yeah, we'll try to warn you guys in the titles of the podcast episodes if we think we look horrible.
They're gonna want to tune in to the first November episode, but we'll get to that in November.
We'll get to that in November. So as of right now, we are basically 8 days out from the Flames beginning their season against Colorado Avalanche at home. We will record that next week. Yeah, we're going to record a preview podcast for the home opener / season opener this time next week. But in the interim, the Flames got some decisions to make, Shane. So we figured, folks, we're going to go position by position, player by player. There's 28 players left in Flames camp. Jeremy Poirier was the most recent cut. So the Flames are down to 28 players. That's 3 goaltenders, 9 defensemen, and they have, if my math is correct, 16 forwards. So they got some decisions to make. We're not including Oliver Shillington. Before we get into it, we don't have any information about Oliver Shillington. We have nothing new to say about Oliver Shillington outside of we hope he gets back soon because he's a good hockey player, and that's essentially it. But the 28 does not include Oliver Shillington. In the likely event that Oliver Shillington is unavailable for the first games of the season, as in we hit Monday, the October 10th, 3 p.m. is when the Flames need to file a cap compliant roster with the NHL at 3 p.m. So they need to they have to either be between 20 and 23 active players. If Oliver Shillington is still unavailable, and we have 1 preseason game left, so we're operating on the assumption Oliver Shillington will not begin the season for the Flames. More likely than not, he will be declared non-roster, but he will count against the cap. It's essentially like when a player is injured, because Shillington was on the NHL roster for all of last season. That's the way they do it. Typically what they do is they prorate it based on if you played a certain number of games or were on the NHL roster for a certain number of days. There's no proration. He was on the NHL roster for the full season. So he is full, unless the Flames somehow, have a wizard come down and say, you got a cap exemption, which
that will never happen.
I don't see it happening.
They don't hand them out very
I've been talking to people from teams. I've been talking to people who run various cap empires, and just going like, is there any way that they get out of the cap hit? It's extremely unlikely. When Travis Hamonic was non-roster with the Canucks a couple years ago. They tried to get an exemption, and then they couldn't suspend him, and then it got weird. Then they had to waive him. It was a mess. And then also with Dustin Byfuglien a couple years ago with Winnipeg, they tried to suspend him for not reporting, and then he was like, "I didn't report because I'm injured," and that became a mess. So the long of the short of it is, if you're trying to get out of a cap hit on a non-roster player, it's messy and it's not worth the hassle. And it's just, long story short, for various reasons, we're pretty sure his cap hit's gonna count.
Yeah,
which complicates the rest of this discussion, but we'll get into the cap of it all in a little bit. What Shane and I are going to do is we're going to go position by position, starting with the goaltenders, then moving our way up to D and forwards. And we're going to tell you who's still in camp and if they have a chance of making the team and why or why not. And we'll start with the goaltenders because we like to start off easy.
It's pretty straightforward.
So there are 3 goalies on the roster right now. The goaltenders are, see if I can remember this. The goaltenders are Jacob Markstrom, who was second in Vezina voting last year, Dan Vladar, who's on a league minimum contract, and I believe has stopped like all but 3 shots at even strength in the preseason.
He's been unreal, dude.
Yeah, he's been very good. And also, who's the third guy? Oh, Dustin Wolf, the reigning AHL goaltender of the year.
I was going to say, you got to say reigning AHL goaltender of the year. It doesn't count.
It's his first name. It's his first name now. So here's the gist. Markstrom, second in Vezina voting. He's a lock. There's no way, if his arms and legs fell off, he'd probably still make the team.
Yeah.
Vladar, league minimum, needs waivers to go down.
Best camp of anybody too.
Yeah, he of any player in any role of the Flames, he probably, yeah. So I think let's not belabor the point. Markstrom is very good. Vladar is the best goalie in camp / best player in camp. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't really know what else there is to it. Dustin Wolf doesn't need waivers to go down. He's going to be the uncontested number 1 goaltender for the Heat the Wranglers this year. I'm going to keep saying Heat until I die. But yeah, so defense or goaltenders is easy. It's Markstrom and Vladar, and Wolf will get cut. That brings them down to 27 bodies. Now it gets fun. So
now it's what works and what doesn't.
So let's go through the defensemen. So here are the guys. Let's go. Okay, let me think this way. Okay, so guys will definitely be on the team. Let's start with the easy one.
There's 5 that are for sure on the team.
Yeah, so they are Hanifin, Anderson, Zadorov, Uyghur, Tanev. Easy guys, all on one-way deals, all locks.
Veterans. It's experienced.
And then it's just sort of question of, okay, you're going to have, for cap reasons, well, let's get into those 5 first. So you have Tanev who can play. He always plays. Tanev and Anderson are locks on the right. Lindholm and Zadorov are locks on the left. And then you have Uyghur who can flop back and forth depending on really who do you want to play with. And I think Daryl Sutter's been commenting, and we saw in the game against Winnipeg, he basically just shuffled up the pairings entirely because I think he wanted to sort of see some different looks. Partially, I think all of us were sort of fantasy booking a Uyghur Tanev pairing, want to see how it looked. It was pretty decent. It was decent, but it was a game where the whole team kind of looked discombobulated. So it's not really, it's kind of tough to make assessments about if it works or not.
It's not a perfect puzzle, Pete. Like it doesn't just it's not like you can look at it and go, okay, that's what it's going to be. Like a lot of teams, you can look at their decor and you go, okay, that's what it's going to be. Those are who's going to pair with who. These guys are going to get top 4 minutes. Calgary's got 5. Sutter said he's impressed with Zadorov's camp.
Oh, he's been really
ideally good. Zadorov's your third pair guy, but he said he was pushing for upper minutes, and he's been testing them out with Uyghur as a pair. He tested them out with Anderson. It's very interesting. Noah Hanifin and Rasmus Anderson to me just works so well. I kind of want them to stay together. It works well. They work off each other. They played together for multiple seasons, full season last year.
Well, that's the.
But then you take ice time away from the new guy. And
here's the challenge for me. So of the guys who aren't locks, there's Valimaki, Mackey, Stone, and Milosh.
Yep.
I think Stone had the best camp of all of them offensively. I really like Milosh.
I've noticed Stone's been lacking in his coverage lately. He's like that against Seattle, that Burakovsky goal. He was caught in no man's land, or not goal. Burakovsky was left all alone in front of the net. There's a couple tap-in goals. He's up too high in the crease. Noah Hannafin had a pretty bad giveaway. We're not talking about
I think if you have the cap space,
one.
if you have cap space to carry 7, Stone's your 7, because he can come in and if somebody gets hurt, you can shelter him and just give him PP time if you need to. So that kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But if the idea is you're looking to put together the best 3 pairs, I kind of lean Milosh.
Yes, I think Milosh, you get the left, right.
And then you go Uyghur, Tanev, and Hannafin, Anderson. And then when Shillington's back, maybe you shuffle it up again and sort of get a sense of. But if the idea is you're going to have a tough first week or so of games with Colorado and Edmonton right out the gate, Milosh and Zadorov are steady in their own end, and it gives you the ability to use the other 2 guys against Edmonton's best players. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you need to do. So
the other thing is, if you add Milosh, it adds another right shot, and they're pretty right shot light, especially when you load Toffoli and Lindholm up on the front end. Like the rest of the lines, there's not a lot of right shots. So having one on the ice at any given time is beneficial.
It gives you different looks, and like you said,
it really helps with the blue line keeping possession in the zone. You don't have to make a bad pass across your body and risk it going off someone's leg. You can just go up the boards and throw it back in. It's a safer thing to do. So
here's my expectation based on how camp has gone so far. There's still a preseason game left, so we could look very foolish by Monday.
Yeah.
Here's what I expect. I suspect that Michael Stone ends up in the American Hockey League one way or the other. I don't know my guess is if I was the Flames, I offer him a fairly hefty AHL contract so you can avoid him going to waivers, because he's good enough. Like, say, if you sign him to a league minimum 2A deal, I don't think he clears. I think someone takes him because he's useful. And he's a known quantity, for the reasons why the Flames would claim a guy like Michael Stone. That's why other teams would claim a guy like Michael Stone. Everyone saw the playoffs. Everyone knows what he can and can't do. But
if you're scored all preseason from
he's got that shot, and he's a guy that if you're a team that sucks, as in a team high in the waiver priority, you look at Michael Stone and go, yeah, why not? We could use a PP specialist.
He could easily fit on 10 different rosters as a regular NHL player.
But if you're Stone, I don't think Stone wants to go anywhere else. Stone had off
to stay in Calgary.
Yeah. So if the idea is that you don't have the cap space to have him on the NHL roster full time yet, maybe you will later, but you don't right now. And he wants to be around here. There's no salary cap in the AHL, and if the Flames are willing to pay him whatever they want to pay him to convince him to sign an AHL deal.
In the you give him a $500,000.
Brett Sutter is not getting poor playing in the AHL.
Yeah, and they named, I think, what's his name? Kale.
He's not officially named captain yet, but Brett Sutter's gonna be the captain.
Yeah.
So, but if the idea is you want to have Stone ready, you can sign him to an AHL deal until the cap complications deal with themselves. And then maybe he ends up being your 7 after all this shakes out. But I think
it's kind of like Spezza in Toronto the other year. There was a speculation that they were going to waive him, and Spezza publicly said, "No, I'm at the end of my career. I just want to play in Toronto."
He flat out said, "If I'm claimed, I'm retiring."
And I think it's this kind of the same thing with Stone. I think if they sign him, it's very clear that he wants to stay in Calgary. I think a lot of teams will just go, "Okay, you can just, if you want to just stay in Calgary and play in Calgary, whether it's for the Wranglers or the Flames, you go ahead." I think a lot of teams would contact his agent first. They'd be like, "Hey, he's on waivers. Is he willing to come to New Jersey or something?"
Well, I think the problem is Michael Stone had other offers, and he said no thank you to the other offers because he wanted to be around Calgary. His family's from here, so
he lives here. It's his home.
Yeah, I think the Flames are savvy enough and also creative enough that I think Michael Stone will end up being the AHL for Calgary at some point. He probably ends up being the NHL for Calgary at some point, but I also think they're kind of worried about losing him potentially on waivers. So I think that's going to be a complication. Here's the other X factor.
I think the entire league is looking at Calgary waiting, because I think we're going to lose a guy on waivers no matter what.
Well, here's the thing. So the guys we don't have I think we both have the same 5 guys making the team, and I'm a Milosh guy.
I think our six is the same too. I'm Milosh.
I don't know if
but
they
I think
carry
our
a 7.
seven. I think our 7's different.
I don't know if they carry a 7 for cap reasons. I think they want to stash some money away. So I think if the Flames, assuming they release, let's say they release Stone from his PTO and sign him to an AHL deal for now, and then they
avoid that for now.
And they avoid the waivers thing. But
Yeah.
then Valimaki carries Yusuf Valimaki is making $1.55 million against the salary cap. And you're allowed to bury, I believe it's 1.075 or something like that. Basically, when you waive him and send him down, his cap hit in the NHL is still $425,000 to not play in the NHL. So you're basically burning off $500,000 of a guy who the Flames would say no thank you to. And if you're talking about maybe trading for Valimaki or maybe claiming off waivers, if you're claiming off waivers, you better have a roster spot for him. And if you're claiming him off waivers or trading for him, you damn well sure better think he's an NHL defenseman, because otherwise he puts that hole into your cap. And I don't know how to get around it.
If he does get claimed, then any point in time throughout the year, if that team that claims him goes to send him down again, Calgary can put him directly into the American Hockey.
But they'd still
same thing that happened with. I looked it all up with the Hornet.
They'd still have to eat the cap hit.
They'd still have to eat the cap hit. Yes.
I don't think they want to eat the cap hit.
I don't think they would either. But he's not in their top 7. He's not even in their top 8D. There's 8 guys in camp.
I would say Mackey of the lefties is better.
Yeah. Well, no. If we go through it, then we talked about the main 5 guys, and there's 4 left. Milosh, Mackey, and Stone have all outplayed Valimaki. And you know what? It's not. And we can say everything about his him getting hurt and everything like that, but it's not physical attributes that's contributing to this. It's his lack of awareness on the ice. He's not in the right spot. He's making bad reads. He's pinching at the wrong time. He's just not played like an NHL defender that wants to play. Now, could he go play in Arizona and thrive? Yeah, because they're a run and gun team. Maybe he'd get points. He would certainly make a career of himself.
I think he hits do you think he breaks their top 6?
I mean, we were just talking about Philly earlier. I think he could break their top 6, but I mean, I don't know. And
that's the thing to me. If you're going to be claiming or trading for a guy who has a cap hit for not playing in the NHL, right now, as it stands with the roster that Shane and I've sort of mocked up, you're the Flames and you're starting with nearly $3 million of defensemen with cap hits that won't play for you. Mm-hmm. And one of them you have no control over because it's just an unfortunate situation that a player's dealing with. Yeah. The other one is simply guy ain't good enough. And
I got a question.
That's a challenge.
I got a question for you. End of next year, do you qualify him at $1.55 million?
No,
you can't.
What if he accepts it?
Then you're stuck paying that for another year. Why wouldn't he accept?
He's got no ARP case,
especially if he plays in the minors. You're not going to get anything more than a contract that can be buried.
So the qualifying offer rules are basically, I believe, with the amount he's making, he's an AHL defenseman right now, and he'd be getting $1.55 million as his QO in a one-way. So right away, that's a no. That's an easy no. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Those are 2023 problems, but in terms of the 2022 problems, I think that
plays a factor for me in this season. If you're not going to qualify him, and at that point you'd lose him, he'd be a free agent for nothing. Then why does it matter if we lose him on waivers? That's what I'm trying to get to the public.
I think I agree with you, but I also don't think anyone claims him off waivers.
I also don't think.
I think the cap
hit, especially a good team, they're not going to. They don't have the cap space. They don't have the ability to take him on. They need league min players, and if he is claimed by a team, it's someone that's
and
this will
Chicago. This will sound really mean, and I love you, Yuso. I covered Yuso's whole career as a pro. If you're a bad team and you have cap space to claim Yuso, I think you can spend that money better, or I think you can spend that money better. You probably have young, cheap project players on your third pair in the NHL if you're a bad team.
Yeah, well, I mean, when think of all the other top end reclamation projects that have gone through Calgary. Sven Berchier didn't work out. Hunter Shinkarik didn't work out. For lots of other reasons, a lot of top drafted players when Yuso, or what's his name, Vancouver was taken just before Tkachuk. Ulevi got waived the other day. he was a 5th overall draft pick. Like sometimes these guys just don't work out. And unfortunately for Valimaki's situation, he did lose that 2 prime years, the 2 most important years you need to develop a player. And the Flames didn't have the right coach in the place at the right time.
Yeah.
And this is the result.
I'll say the same thing that I said when Sven Baertschi got traded. I really like Sven, and it would have been like, I think the problem for Sven is Sven just had like the worst injury luck. He had concussion problems, and once your brain ain't right, it's tough. Once you get a brain injury, and for those of you who were watching the NFL the last couple of weeks, getting your head crushed, it messes you up, and it takes a while for you to be right again. And especially getting a couple, the term used in the medical field is TBI, traumatic brain injury.
Traumatic.
Yeah, it's just bad business. It's just not good.
That was Sven, bad to watch.
Sven had horrible injury luck. Michael Furlan had horrible injury luck. But especially for young players who are still trying to find their way, I'm sure even not when they play, the Flames, but I'm sure even the Flames brass would say that they'd be rooting for good people who have to move on to other organizations to find their way. I mean, I think the Flames are pretty excited to see Sam Bennett have success, as long as it was against Calgary, because that's
why he's out east.
Sam Bennett was slotted into he was put into a box by the Flames, and I think the Flames saw enough of him in specific instances to have an impression of him cemented, and I think Sam didn't think that's what he was, and so he had to go somewhere else to become something else. And I think this same thing might happen to Juuso, but we have
a good point though.
The 3 guys we have not making the team out of camp, left on D. Stone, we already talked about. Mackey, who $913,000 cap hit for a guy who's pretty good.
It's your 7th D though. Like that's the same. Like if you want to save money,
he'd be your 7 if you carry 7.
Is he a better 7? Like that's the thing when I think of waivers. Is he a better 7 on any other team? Like is he bumping anybody? No, he doesn't have the.
And this is the calculus I'm trying to do in my head in terms of
just steady. Like he doesn't like that's what I like.
Here's a question for you.
Stand out.
Here's a question for you. Are you more likely to lose Mackey off waivers on the day before the season opens or 2 weeks into the season?
2 weeks into the season.
So I think, and that's why I think they try to push him through an Operation Dumbo Drop where everyone's 13th, 14th, 15th forward and 6th and 7th and 8th defenseman gets pushed through at once.
Well, I think they're going to do cuts tomorrow. Is it either tomorrow or Friday? Like they only got 1 preseason game left and then it's done. Wolf's going to go down. Like no surprise. Like this his role.
I think they keep Wolf around for another day or so of practices and then he goes down on
Saturday. But like the D, they need to sort that out. And then I think we're about to get into the forwards here because there's a lot of topics to talk about on forward. So
anyway, I think we figured out the 6D, and then like I think the interesting thing will be how the 3 guys that don't make the team are handled, because 2 of them have definite NHL value, and one of them I think Juuso still has a ton of potential. I think he hasn't played a lot of pro, and I think he hasn't really shown what he can be. Well, I don't know if he's going to do that here though.
The other thing is it's a good reminder to the listeners to remind, if they clear waivers, they don't have to clear for another 30 days. So
they don't have to clear for another 30 days spent on the NHL roster.
Yeah. So that's aggregate. They could spend 10, go back down, come up, spend 20, and then need waivers, right? So if Mackey, Valimaki all both clear, well then and they're just running 6D and an injury happens, well, 2 things. A, the farm team's not that far away anymore. And B, they don't have to go through waivers to go back down again. So they're covered. That's another benefit. Like if the team wasn't in Calgary, you would have to keep a 7th D on the roster because they are, you can get away with.
Well, realistically, what happens is if someone blows out an ankle in morning skate, if you were carrying 6D, you got to call Stockton. They got to throw somebody in the back of a van, drive them to an airport, whichever airport has the fastest commercial flight to Calgary, throw them onto a plane, have them schlepped across the continent in commercial with their gear thrown into a plane.
Yeah.
Then you have to pick them at the airport, rush them to the arena, and they might make.
And that's without any flight delays. That's without any flight delays or weather patterns or anything like that.
In Calgary, it's 20 minutes from Winsport.
Yeah, it's like, hey, instead of driving to this arena this morning, you want to come to the Dome?
If you don't feel like sending an Uber for Connor Mackey when the season starts to call him up, he can take the C train. He can take Calgary Transit. Right. I mapped it out. It takes an hour from Transit from Winsport to the Saddle Dome. So if you really hate Connor Mackey and decide to cheap out and be like, we're not sending a car for you, just take the bus, it takes an hour. So even worst case scenario of Connor Mackey taking the bus with his gear across town, he still makes it, after morning skate with plenty of time.
So
I think you're going to see a lot of, I think, Brad touched on this when at the season opening press conference. He mentioned the cap implications of having your farm team in town. You're going to see a lot of guys. They're going to carry league minimum number of guys, 20 players on off days if they can. And then, someone's up for a day because we need an extra guy for warm up. And then, he goes back down and stuff like that. So they're going to I think they're going to see a lot of guys on waivers on Monday or Sunday into Monday. And then they're going to try to squeeze as much service time as they can out of them. You think baseball manipulates service time? Wait till you see this year.
Baseball does so bad, but anyway.
That's right. We're getting some service time smack into FlamesNation Radio. Let's move on to forwards. Some of the decisions are really easy and some of the decisions are very complex. Let's briefly discuss the easy decisions. So first line, definitely first line, set in stone, locked in. Jonathan Huberdeau, Elias Lindholm, Tyler Toffoli. Those guys are locked. You might see some shuffling around a little bit, but
they're all on the roster for sure. Like they're not going anywhere.
Second line locks, second three forwards for locks. Andre Mangiapane, Nazem Kadri, Dylan Dubé. They might have been the best 5-on-5 forward line the Flames have put together in camp so far. They only played 2 games together, but they've both games they were extremely noticeable.
Well, we're done here. I've got praise for Kadri.
Quasi third line, and we've seen kind of different combinations. I think the third line is sort of the question mark, but I think this is the third line that they sort of have mapped out. Maybe Kevin Rooney, Michael Backlund, Blake Coleman. Backlund and Coleman are almost definitely going to be sort of joined at the hip, and then they're going to be put with
there for
a winger of some kind. I think like Rooney was good. Granted, they were playing at home and they're playing against a team that Seattle that they had most of their stars, but all their stars. But Rooney was good. Rooney made some good plays. I'm Kevin Rooney's growing on me. I think he can be your fourth line center or a bottom 6 winger in somewhere. And I think
he can play on either side and up the middle. He's a versatile tool that you can plug in anywhere.
He's at this point, I think he's basically your poor man's Frolik, where he's your line fixer right now in terms of you don't know what to do with somebody, throw him around.
Like he's not the guy getting the promotion to play with Kadri or Lindholm. He's in the bottom 6. You shuffle other people around and you're like, well, it doesn't matter because where's the hole? Oh, well, we'll just put Rooney there because he fit.
Exactly.
So
2 other guys I think are definitely on the team, Milan Lucic and Trevor Lewis. Trevor Lewis is dirt cheap and has a couple Stanley Cups. Milan Lucic is not dirt cheap, but I mean, he's big and he's got a cup ring and he's on the team. Like he's got to know move, so you can't send down. He would, you can't throw him on waivers because he'd say no. So for better or for worse, Luch is on the team. It's the final year of his contract. Just ride the Luch wave this year, guys. It might be his last year in Calgary. It might not be. I don't know.
It might be his last year ever, but we'll see.
We'll see. But yeah, I think if nothing else, he's on the team. So the easy decisions are all made. That leaves us.
Then there's another guy that has to be on their roster.
Who?
Radim Zohorna.
No, he doesn't.
He can't go back down.
Yes, he can. They'd have to waive him again.
Yeah, well, Pittsburgh would just take it back.
Yeah, so
like
you're playing Zohorna against the 2 games against Winnipeg, and if he sucks, you throw him on waivers, and you didn't give up nothing to get him. So if he
goes back to Pittsburgh,
yeah, or he goes to Wilkes-Barre. So I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. I what is it? There's the guys we have left: Richie, Ruzicka, Eakin, Milano, Zohorna. I'll say this: I don't think they signed either of Cody Eakin or Sonny Milano. Cody Eakin is the better of the 2. If you said to me, Ryan, they really need a 4th line center and Cody Eakin can kind of do everything, he's basically a less good Kevin Rooney with better hair. I'd say, first of all, Kevin Rooney's hair is fine. Second of all, okay. I think Eakins fits what the Flames want out of their 4th line. better than Milano is fit what the Flames want out of their anything.
Yeah.
I watched Milano in that game against Seattle at the Saddle Dome. I watched him a lot. He did not look good in any of the three zones. The Flames, for those of you who have joined us before and watched the Flames a lot, you know this. For those of you who are relatively new, welcome. The Flames play what we affectionately known as structured breakouts, as in it's quick pass at the boards, quick pass to a guy in the middle, and then boom, you're out. And then they try to have quick passes out of the zone, and they try to generate speed through the neutral zone with passes and puck movement. So
and if you can't pass it,
and all of a sudden everyone transitions, and there's three guys moving in one direction. Milano basically biffed 2 or 3 breakouts in a single shift in their own zone. And thankfully they, didn't end up in goals because the Flames were, Jacob Markstrom was in good shape, but it was like, there was some times where you're like, what is Milano doing? And he was okay in the neutral zone. He was kind of like his bread and butter. I think the thought process was this. Here was probably the hopes and dreams that Milano and the Flames had when he signed the PTO. Milano will be fine in the neutral zone and the defensive zone, and then attacking zones where he's gonna make his bread and butter. He'll make some passes. He'll get the nice shots off. Worst case, he'll be a guy who finds the quiet areas of the ice and gets shots off. Maybe you could call him a poor man's Sean Monahan, but with hips that work. That was probably the hope. It has not materialized in any of the games he played in.
All right. It's because I'm sick and I was home all day. I was on Natural Stat Trick and they have preseason statistics. And I was like, oh, let's check the Flames total and aggregate. Sonny Milano's expected goals ratio is somewhere in the 35-ish%. And he played 2 games against almost all AHL lineups. That's just not acceptable. You're getting outplayed, you're getting outchanced. And like the first few games, sure, you're getting ready. But then, and everyone screaming, we haven't tried him with good line mates. I'm
going to interject here. If you have an NHL contract, if you're on a one-way, or even if you're a guy who's coming into camp on your 2-way or whatever, like let's just say, I'm gonna pick on Brett Ritchie because Brett Ritchie's easy to pick on in this situation. But let's say you're Brett Ritchie. Brett Ritchie has I think he's on a 2-way deal, fairly expensive 2-way deal. He's on a one. Oh, he's on a one-way. He's on a one-way. He's on $750K one-way. It's the league minimum one-way.
Yeah.
So if you're Brett Ritchie did not sign until like the 11th hour. He kind of figured he would, but he didn't sign till late. So if you're Brett Ritchie, you know the coach, you know the teammates, you know the building, you're used to it, you're comfortable. I can begrudge Brett Ritchie, who is on the team until he plays his way off of it. I think Brett Ritchie can spend that first game against Vancouver knocking the rust off. I mean, he just signed. Maybe he didn't know where to be playing. There was some question marks around Brett Ritchie's employment for the current year, like where he'd be and those kind of things. Okay, if you're Brett Ritchie, you can knock the rust off. If you're Jonathan Huberdeau, you're Jonathan Huberdeau. You set the NHL's record for assists by a left wing last year. You could take a couple games to get your shit together if you're Jonathan Huberdeau, because
new coach, new Huberdeau, new house.
Yeah, and like Kadri, like there's a lot of guys where you're figuring stuff out. Rooney was another guy, but I thought Rooney picked it up pretty well. And honestly, the 3 guys we just name dropped, Huberdeau, Rooney, Kadri, seem to have picked up the systems pretty well. So far, they haven't really, there's occasional blips, but you're not really pointing at them going like, what the hell is that guy doing? If you're Sonny Milano or Cody Eakin and you do not have a contract, you got to attack these spacing games like you're Michael Stone. You got to be going like just playing every friggin' shift like it's game 7 in the Stanley Cup final, because if you suck, they might send you home tomorrow. They can't do that to the other guys. You don't have a job. You don't have a guaranteed job. Like, why? It's a job interview. You should be prime conditioned. You should have been ready to go. You should have done game tape for the team ahead of time to know what kind of system they play, and not just rely on your pure skill. That's arrogant. Like you need to become ready to play, and you haven't shown any of it. Like, to me, he was like minimum level, like replacement level in all those games he played. Like, he didn't show any flashes, no great passes. Eakin has been decent to pretty good in most of the games. Like, granted, he's been in sort of a complimentary role.
some of those passes you mentioned Milano making, Eakin has sent some friggin' bombs. I think I wrote into the ethereal plane. He has sent some back passes just nowhere near anybody across the ice right onto the
We affectionately call those the Todd Bertuzzi passes to oblivion.
Yes, that's exactly. He's done that in every single game he's played so far. Like, he's actually in the right spots, but oh my God, you can't have that. That can't happen.
And honestly, like if we're talking about the PTOs, like I think Milano, he's been various degrees of fine to that one game where he was a bit yikes against Seattle. Egan has sort of been good shit. Like Egan is from shift to shift decent, but then occasionally be like, what was that?
Yeah,
so if you're judging them on body work,
when it's bad,
don't know if you take either of them.
No, I wouldn't. The guys you have are better. But here's the other thing. And we were talking about the bubble guys. When we talked about Mackey and Milosh and all those waivers down there, you can't put Adam Ruzicka on waivers. That guy's gone. His size, his skill, his ability to score, no team's gonna let that stay on the waiver wire. His age, I think he's only 23. Like that's an easy claim for me. If I'm a lower level GM with weak center skills, I'm like, yeah, I'm taking him all day.
Okay, so of the bubble guys, I have no Eakin, no Milano.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me neither.
Here's my question to you. How many forwards are they carrying?
13.
13?
Well, you just don't know with the money situation.
Who do you there's one spot, there's 2 spots and 3 guys then. Ruzicka, Ritchie, Zahorna.
Well, I think he keeps Zahorna and Ruzicka, and well, I mean, if you want to
waive Ritchie,
and he can, but you can waive Ritchie, and he's not. It's not like he's playing in Stockton. He's in Calgary. Same situation as Stone. Like Ritchie and Stone, I put literally in the exact same category. They're good extra guys. They can sit in the box. It's fine. When they get plugged in, they'll do a good job in the role they're given. And if they need to go to the minors, guess what? Ritchie's still getting $750,000 no escrow in the minors. So, is he really? Yeah, of course you want to play in the NHL, but like when playoffs come and stuff like that, Ritchie will be up. Like Ritchie will be there in this.
Okay, for your, I would have then Ruzicka as my 4th line center between Lucic and Lewis.
Well, if you're gonna put Rooney on the wing, then yeah,
I think you do that because you have Rooney. You basically have 5 centers on the roster. Lewis can play some center too and take draws. So if the idea is if Ruzicka plays his way out of that position game to game, you have a couple guys on the bench already who can bail him out and sort of ease the pressure on him a bit. And I think that helps. Zahorna hasn't played a lot of NHL, hasn't played a lot of center at the pro level. Ritchie can't play. Well, he doesn't. He's not a center.
He plays a right wing. Period.
Yeah. So
I mean, just right.
So yeah, I would assume here's the thing though. Here's my thing. So I have the same view. I'm indifferent between Zahorna and Ritchie at this point. I think with Ritchie, at least you kind of know what he is, for better or for worse. Zahorna is all potential
versus the devil you don't.
Yeah, so I think I'm kind of, if you flip a coin between Zahorna and Ritchie, I probably slightly lean Ritchie because his deficits and his strengths, and he's a red shot. So
I think they're going to want to give I think they're going to want to get the 6'6" big guy that can play a little bit more runway than just a couple preseason games. Like they got him late.
And maybe you I think Ritchie probably clears, so maybe you keep Zahorna around for a couple of weeks, you get a sense of what he could do, and then maybe in a couple of weeks you switch those 2 guys.
Well, you could keep 14, like you could keep 14 and just send who is it down? I can't remember, but you could keep 14 and 60, like you could do that because then the 7th D in effect is Shillington, and you're still cap compliant. So like that's possible. You got to remember they'll get a bit more cap space if they do send Val.
Okay. So you and I have them. Yeah. You and I have them. We're waiving. I'm just doing the math in my head, my friend. So you can see my reflection, friends. If you're watching this on video, I'm looking at a spreadsheet, baby.
Pike has the best spreadsheet on
Huberdeau, Kadri, Toffoli, Mangiapane, Lindholm, Coleman, Lucic, Backlund, Dubé, Zahorna, Rooney, Lewis, Ruzicka. And you're waiving Ritchie?
I'm waiving Ritchie.
Okay.
I'm waiving Valimaki.
Okay. So here's the thing. So your sixth is Milosh.
Yep.
At 950. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the complication, and I think the Flames need to juggle. So this is us carrying 13 forwards, 6 defensemen, and 2 goalies. So this is 13,
19, 21.
Yeah, this is us carrying. We have 2 extra roster spots to flex guys in and out on game days or wherever.
Really, only one because we're counting Shillington.
You're counting Shillington's cap. You're not counting Shillington the body.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So they still have room for 2.
They have the roster spot.
Money.
So
based
on the math, I have the Flames with 1.6625, like $1,662,500 of cap space. So here's the thing. So you can accrue it, but here's the sub question: how worried are you about someone claiming Connor Mackey? Because you could carry 7, you could do 22. And you could.
Your season's going to be defined on a 7th D waiver claim, then you don't have a very good team. Period. If your entire season's going to be defined based on the guy that you actually cut because he's not in your starting lineup, and the other guy that normally would have a spot will come back at some point, knock on wood, hopefully, then you don't have a good team.
Yeah.
And
okay. And so in this situation, do you have, when Shillington's back, whenever he's back, do you have Milosh as your 7, or do you basically you're sort of
Milosh is an NHL D man. He played 56 games last year, and from all 3 games I've watched him play this year, he hasn't done anything to determine that he's not. Yeah. And to me,
he's a metronome to me. Yeah. My dad coached to be in minor hockey, and his thing is like I played a couple years of D, and then they moved me up to be a complimentary checking winger because I did not have a lot of talent. I was good at skating. And I could back check. That was the only thing I had. So this is how I made the NHL friends. But his whole thing was he's like, son, you're playing on the blue line unless you're like blasting things on net from the point. I just don't want to notice you. And Milosh, you just don't notice him.
That's I can't remember. I read that the other day. Someone said that's a compliment. I think it was Mike Matheson of the Habs. He said, "Yeah, sometimes you don't notice him out there." And he goes, "That's a good thing. Like if you don't see me, that means I didn't mess up."
So both of us. So we have the Flames starting with 21. Basically, the guys. Just to summarize, are what we think. We anticipate the cap decisions would be. Let's see. Wolf down, doesn't need waivers. That's easy. AHL deal of some kind for Stone, and then maybe if Milosh struggles or you decide to shuffle things up, you can easily sign Stone midseason to a league min deal or a one-way deal or whatever. And
prorated anyway.
He doesn't need waivers to go and sign the NHL. If you're sending him back down on an AHL deal, he does. But if he's on an AHL deal, there's no waivers. So I think that's a workaround, and I think it might be a thing that works out pretty well. Depending, we have them grinning and bearing it and eating the hit on Valimaki on waivers, hope that Mackey doesn't get claimed on waivers. We have them saying bye-bye to the 2 PTOs, Eakin and Milano, and we have them, I believe, crossing their fingers and closing their eyes and hoping that Brett Ritchie clears the waivers. And then that's the team, 21 players, 13 forwards, 6 defensemen, 2 goalies, primarily designed to stash cap space as they amble along. You remember, this is a team that was able to friggin' trade for Tyler Toffoli midseason because they were smart with the cap space. So
I think just about to get into that. I was going to say, but just the one thing is just because we cut Milano, because, I mean, he hasn't earned anything, doesn't mean Brad won't go out and acquire the proper winger at some point this year.
Who's to say?
Especially if he's got cap space that he can accrue. So, I mean, everyone just saw it. The man worked his friggin' magic this summer and got 3 fantastic top end players, which I was going to mention Kadri. I'm going to do that now. He's fit seamlessly. He hasn't looked out.
Doesn't he look like he's worn that sweater for his entire career?
He looks like he knows that system inside and out. He drives the play. I knew he was a possessive magnet. I used to watch him.
He's basically
the puck's going to his stick.
Okay,
if he wants to enter the zone,
people, because of the physical resemblance to Brett Goldstein, people made the Roy Kent comments about Dylan Dubé.
Yeah. I love that.
Nazem Kadri's playing style is more like the way Roy Kent from Ted Lasso is described, in that like he skates like he's mad at the ice.
Mean, man.
Yeah.
And who else to play with than one of the Blasty bros and dudes?
So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But I'm really curious how close we are to what they actually do. I am anticipating them being really clever, or attempted to be clever with a waiver wire, because they want to stash as much money as they can, because I think they got value last year with their cap space when they flipped Pitlick and turned their other cap space into a Tyler Toffoli. So what else can, and we'll do this. The folks at The Athletic just came out with their season projections. They're not standings projections. They're simply ranking the teams by expected points value, which yes is standings
based on Dom's model. Based on Dom's model, not their opinions.
Yeah. So Sean Gentile, John Lasician, and Shayna Goldman put those together. All of them are awesome. Shayna breaks news now, which is great because Shayna's amazing. But yeah, they ranked the top 2 teams in the league, and I know people have been freaking out about this all day. 1 is the Toronto Maple Leafs, and 2 is the Calgary Flames. If you go on Daily Faceoff, our dear friend and president of hockey content, Frank Sarvalli, he made 2 predictions, which will make people go, One is the Flames will play the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs and beat them in the rematch. And the other one will be the Flames return to the Stanley Cup final for the first time since 2004
and lose
to Carolina. So yeah, this is a long way of saying,
I don't know. Daryl Sutter is the second hottest coach in the NHL. Like he should be. Right.
This is to say the Flames think they have a good team. They've acted like they have a good team. They're building their team like they have a good team. They're going to hoard their cap space like they have a good team, because they want to have the ability to add something at some point, possibly at the deadline, maybe midseason, who knows, but they want to have the ability to do things. And the easiest way to do things in a cap world is to have cap space. And like Shane said, maybe it would come at the expense of having to grin and bear it on, closing your eyes and crossing your fingers and hoping that Connor Mackey makes it to waivers. Maybe you throw a draft pick at someone so they take Juuso Valimaki off your hands, because I love Juuso. I think he's still got a lot of potential. I don't think he's going to reach his potential in Calgary.
And because I think the time for someone to pay for him is long gone.
Yeah. And I think, okay, like I'm a draft guy, disclosure. It'll become very obvious at some point how much of a draft guy I am, but I'm a draft guy. And I think I hate the idea of saying, Arizona, here's a 5th rounder, take Juuso, but it might come to that. And
it might.
Here's the thing. So the way the cap space works at the trade deadline is essentially the trade deadline is 40. I think this year it's 42 days from the end of the season. So it's essentially in a 185-day season. It's time to do some math, kids. 185 divided by 42. So basically you have just over a quarter of the season left. So it's multiply your cap space that you've accrued on deadline day by 4. That's how much cap space you can add. So just Juuso Valimaki's cap space, you can add a $1.87 million player and still be compliant.
With the 1.6
on deadline day, how much is a $1.85 million player worth to you? Is it worth a 5th rounder? Much like, okay, as much as it sucked for the Flames to, grin and bear it and eat the hit on, they gave up a first round pick, a top 32 pick in a draft many years from now, to get rid of Sean Monahan's cap hit so they could afford to add a Nazem Kadri. If you said to me, okay, would you be cool with eating a first rounder to add Nazem Kadri? I think a lot of people go, how many years? Yeah, okay, sure. At the very least, short term, if the idea is you're in full, burn the boats mode, first rounder for the cap space to add Nazem Kadri is an easy yes. What is the price you'd be comfortable eating to open up the cap space that you wouldn't have to be spending on Juuso Valimaki?
Not much in my personal opinion. Not like
if I'm any of the if I ask you for a 4th or a 5th, is that too much or is that enough?
I mean, that's about right and slot. It's just a matter of if you feel like it's necessary. And if maybe, if no one wants him, you probably fine with him in the minors.
I've got two. Oh, I want the cap space. If I'm the Flames, I want the cap space.
I would love the cap space. Yes.
I've got 2 words for you, my friend. Conditional pick. I think there's a deal to be made there. I'd love for the Flames to make a deal and then regret it because Yusso ends up doing awesome things later.
That'd be awesome for
That'd be workout. Sometimes change it. I'll say this. Look at Sam Bennett. Sometimes change the scenery trades work for everybody.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting into earlier. Like Bennett, the style was never going to work in Calgary. Bennett, like I said, he was an all run and gun, shoot him, like give up a lot defensively to get all the chances offensively. Well, that works in Florida. That's awesome. That's what they want to do. In Calgary, not so much. So it wasn't going to work. Yeah. So, maybe that's what I was saying. Like maybe a team with a bad defense can take a chance on you. So whether it's on waivers or not, and if it doesn't work out, you just don't qualify. Like it just costs you a bit of money at the end of the day.
And maybe the conditional pick is you get a 6th that turns into a 5th if he does things, or
if he plays a 5th that turns into a 4th or something. 41 games for you. This
season, I think there's an architecture of a deal to be made somewhere because will it suck to trade a
former 15th overall pick?
16? Yeah. Trade Yusso and a conditional pick for futures. It's not ideal, but if you're
it's
serious,
win now mode, baby. It's win
if you think
now,
you win a Stanley Cup and the extra $1 million at the deadline, it'll help. It'll help.
I have based after the summer, I have absolute faith in Brad to get stuff figured out. He seems to be one of the best GMs in the entire league. And there's a lot worse people you could put it in their hands and it could end up in a tire fire. I don't have that thought about Brad Treliving at all. I genuinely trust him.
You think we hear about a Uyghur extension before the season? Or do you think that becomes...
I don't want to deal with this again. Please, for the love of everything good in this fan base, get it done.
Yeah, this
another year of this crap. No, thank you.
As much as we don't usually get a lot of big news right around trade.
He's played well.
Yeah,
Cutter loves him. Said he's one of the most coachable players he's ever had. Like that 2 things right there, plus his history, lock him up.
Yeah.
Not enough debating. If it's over signing bonus or squabble, eat it. Call Murray up. And tell him it's time.
It's easy for us to say do it because
I have no sympathy for millionaires, man. Just spend your damn money. I don't have it. You spend it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be just it's gonna be a fascinating season, man. Like
I'm excited. It's new. It's crazy. It's going to be fun. It's going to be dramatic. And I just am ready to hit go and pedal to the metal, man. Ready to rock.
I think that's a good place to end it. FlamesNation Radio is delivered by DoorDash and presented to you every week by our dear friends at Eau Claire Distillery, the makers of Rupert's Whiskey, the official whiskey of the Calgary Flames. It is by the time you listen to this, it will be Thursday, a week away from the onset for the Calgary Flames of the regular season. So we'll be back with you in a week. Shane and I will tee up the season. We'll tee up what's going to be a really, really, really interesting few games to begin the regular season. The Flames open the season Thursday, the 13th of October at home at the Saddledome against the Colorado Avalanche.
Stanley Cup champions. Oh, Naz will get his ring.
There were few teams that I thought meshed well together stylistically, like the Flames and the Avalanche. The Avalanche with the Flames want to be when they grow up. Champions. And also an incredibly entertaining hockey club to watch. That'll be really fun to watch. Jerry Bednar coaching against Daryl Sutter. 2 very good teams going against each other. And then Saturday night, first hockey night of Canada of the season, October 15th, the Flames go up the road to Rogers Place to face the Edmonton Oilers, the team that eliminated them from the Stanley Cup playoffs in 5 games. The Flames got eliminated on home ice in the last meaningful game played at the Saddledome before this season began. And the Oilers will begin their season facing the Flames, and the Flames will hope for some revenge. So right away, we're going to have some fun storylines. We'll get into all those next week. Thank you very much for listening, watching, and supporting Flames Nation and the entire Nation Network family of sites. We're really excited for the season, hope, and just are really flattered and humbled that you guys are all along for the ride. So hopefully we have some fun. For Shane, I'm Ryan. We'll see y'all next week for the preview edition of the podcast where we look at the first few games of the season. Take care, guys.